I'm building a massive 3D structure containing 6,000 dominoes, and it's made entirely out of domino cubes. What's up, Domino community? This is part 2 of my Freestyling a Domino Project series, where I go really in depth on the domino projects that I'm working on and explain kind of my thought process and what goes into creating the types of tricks that I'm building. And I'm very excited because I'm making a domino structure that I've really never built before, and I wanted to go really in depth and just kind of analyze the structure and how I've put it together and the color schemes and all of that. Usually when I start building a project, I'll make all of the large structures first, because if I accidentally knock it down, then it could hit other things. So it's better to make all of the tall things right in the beginning. So I got all my dominoes. I was like, okay, what kind of structure can I build? Like, I need it to be really cool. I need it to be big. And I want to do something that I haven't really, explored in terms of structures. Something that I drew in my domino ideas journal was this idea of using pixel cubes as a domino structure, in the sense that it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube in a way, but not a full cube. Like, imagine if you took cubes out of a Rubik's Cube, or like sliced it in half diagonally. Like, that's kind of the idea that I was going for. And it also sort of reminded me of like those old base 10 blocks that, maybe you've used as a kid learning math, or it also reminded me of those snap cubes that you can kind of like put together and make different sort of like pixel art shapes. And I looked into it some more, and what I found was this is actually called voxel art. If you don't know what a voxel is, it's basically a 3D pixel, a pixel that has volume on 3 axes. So it's not just the X and Y axis, but there's also a Z axis for the depth. And it made me really interested. I thought it was fascinating to use the concept of a cube or a voxel and transform that in dominoes. So that's kind of the idea that I was going for. I know I said in my last video that I wasn't really going to plan a lot, but this is my only idea that I had, and the only idea that I did think a little bit further along when I was building. So I did make a nice color scheme. I wanted to do something with blues and oranges because I thought that was kind of neat and like maybe sciencey in a way. Like it just like looks cool. I don't know, I just love this color scheme. I've arranged the colors in a way that you won't see 2 colors right next to each other, like left, right, top, bottom. You will always see a different color next to it so that you can still see the shape of a cube. Otherwise, it would look, like a rectangular prism. And I thought this color pattern was interesting because something I did differently is I shifted over the colors by 2 spaces to the right on each row, while at the same time, I've removed a domino on the right side so that there's 1 less each time. There's a lot of math I noticed involved in the structure, and I just find that fascinating. But now once we had this first layer done, I could start building 3-dimensionally with the plan. So I started stacking dominoes on top of my layer that I already had. But this time, again, on the second layer, I shifted over the color scheme. So I continued with the color pattern scheme until I got to a point of 1 domino cube or pixel at the top, and that was my structure. It was like a half 5x5 Rubik's Cube with 5 colors. Except there's 35 cubes and there's about 162 dominoes per cube, which in total, including the connection dominoes, is about 6,000 dominoes. And now that I had that, I was able to start building and just, go with the flow. I love building these big structures in the beginning because it's so chill. Like, I don't necessarily need to think about what I'm building. I just start building, and I can put on a podcast. I can start listening to music. I honestly think it's like the most enjoyable part of building with dominoes. Like, right in the beginning, you just like work on a giant structure and it's just so peaceful, and I love it. Anyways, starting the structure was a little tricky because I thought that this structure was originally going to be 1 domino prism, in the sense that I would be using the structure technique, and every cube would be connected through the structure technique or the prism cube technique. But I quickly realized that I couldn't make the structure all one structure because the connecting dominoes would have made each individual cube not a perfect cube, because there would be like this extra layer where I have to like connect the cubes together, if that makes sense. So I realized, wait, like I can't even use the prism cube for the entirety of the structure. I have to make cubes in its own individual form and connect the cubes together. So I'm experimenting with different structure shapes, and rather than making like one big cube, I'm making individual cubes that are just connected together like that. And that was really interesting. I had no idea I was gonna have to do that, but it makes total sense. So I switched my technique. I noticed that I could connect the cubes very easily along the middle portions of the dominoes, in between the dominoes that connect the layers. So basically, I'm connecting the cubes on the weakest dominoes, in the sense that when you take out the dominoes that are in the middle of a cube, there's more above the cube, like on top of those dominoes, that will fall out compared to other dominoes that you take out. Or like you make an X with the dominoes, it's like the one in the middle. You take those out, that's the connection point. And this actually looks really cool because you get to see a separation between the cubes, and it almost appears as if the cubes are sort of floating in midair, which I find is just a really neat effect with it. One thing I noticed while building the structure was that I think I was subconsciously like syncing my breathing to building the domino structure. I think like when I went to place a domino on the cube, I would always be exhaling, and as soon as I placed the domino and pulled my hand back, I would feel myself inhaling and like getting into this rhythm where like my breathing was like literally synced with my building speed. This is like probably not even a conscious thing that I'm doing. It's just like something that I've maybe become used to. I don't even know if I do this all the time, but I just thought that was very interesting, like syncing my breathing to building. You know, it's kind of like when photographers, they say, I think like you always have to exhale when you're taking the photos so that you don't move your hand, you know, it like sort of concentrates your stability. I've actually noticed that other builders that I've built with do this too, and I'm just curious if anyone else does that. I find that is really strange, but also really cool, because I got into this like state of flow where I was like one with my dominoes, and I know that sounds like super weird and crazy, but like the state of flow is just like all you can think about is building, and it comes so naturally, like literally throughout my entire body, to like place the dominoes and then just continue building on this like very specific rhythm. Something about it is just very therapeutic. Now, while building the structure, I did notice quite a bit that I accidentally messed up a lot and placed dominoes in different colors where they shouldn't have been. I just realized I messed up again. That domino and that domino should not be there. I need to put a connecting domino. So now I need to take off all of this. A few times I was feeling a little bit bold and went in to change the dominoes by actually removing a domino that's in the structure while holding up the domino, even though there's no support underneath it, like with my hand or with another domino, and replace it without taking off the dominoes on top of it, which was really scary. If it does fall over by accident, you can't save it. There is no way that you can save a structure once it starts falling. And if you drop one domino in it and it topples in the right way that it hits other dominoes, like it is game over. So I was just feeling real lazy and I didn't want to take off like 40 dominoes, and that was definitely a risk that I took, and luckily it worked out. But yeah, I'm super happy with how this cube structure came out. Now, what's interesting about the colors is that you can find a lot of patterns hidden within the scheme of how they're arranged. So for example, in each row, the color pattern repeats if you shift over the dominoes just by 2. You can also see color patterns within singular colors, in the sense that if you draw a line like diagonally through the cube, it's a really neat, and I feel like it's a unique kind of form with 3D structures and dominoes. Like, I feel like there's a lot that can still be done with shapes of structures, and I really want to explore that more in my future setups. Oh my god, I almost knocked it down. That was terrifying. My heart is racing right now. But yeah, I just love geometry and playing with shapes and cubes, and something about dominoes and like the abstract art that's like inherently within the shape of a domino is just so fascinating. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but I hope that this video was interesting. I really like making these podcasts or voiceover style videos, and if you are interested in hearing more like this, I did make a playlist of all of my voiceover style videos if you want to click in the top right corner. Our featured community member is Luke Domino, who left this awesome suggestion on my last video. Thank you so much. I don't know how I'll be able to pull this off, but I will definitely think about maybe trying something like this. If not in this setup, definitely in another setup. As always, I'm Lily Hevish, and keep on building.